little bit of context for those that don't know. I've had a couple of fines already riding my EUC, and each one is $1,800. I've had 3 actually. And no, I think 4 guys, but I'm fighting a couple of them. I'm paying off a couple because I didn't think to fight them earlier, but now I thought that's enough. And yeah, like I said, it's a couple of grand each time. It's robbery. It's grand theft basically. But I've been to court twice already for my pre-trial conferences, and it went very well. The judge was very sympathetic towards my case, and I've got my final hearing in a couple of months. I'm going to ask for you guys' help soon with that. And also, if you guys can help me get back on my feet, because I've been sick for 3 months. I couldn't work, and I had to sell one of my EUCs. I lost my 16X. So there's my PayPal link for anyone that wants to help out. It'll help out with the channel, make more videos. In this video, which was just now, I get pulled over already. Can you believe it? I've been sick for 3 months, and I get pulled over on my second ride, basically. And a lot's at stake, because it can be a $2,000 fine. So let's see what happens. I was going a bit fast, so it was hard to argue the medical thing. And let's begin. So,
as the driver of a motor vehicle on a road, you need to do an alco-test. Okay?
So on top of this, which is the reason I've been using that, I've actually developed Crohn's disease, which is
The Crohn's is a gastro issue.
yeah, it's in the upper portion of my lower small intestine,
That
and it's
shouldn't
called
affect
giginoinitis.
with why you're using a...
Yeah, because one of the symptoms is chronic lethargy, and I can barely walk 100
that would
meters.
suggest there will probably be even more reason not to be using
That-
a single-wheeled...
There's no effort involved in using that. It's you stand on it and it rolls.
You're rolling along, you fall asleep.
No, you don't. If you stop me from using this, there's nothing else you can provide. You can't say, "Oh, go to the doctor and get something else." There is nothing.
Why aren't you using a two-wheeled scooter?
There is nothing else because of my wrist injuries.
Right. So what about a gopher?
Same thing. I've got to manipulate the controls the entire way. Imagine how long the journey is, right? How long I'm going to be using my wrist for. I can barely...
But that's for your left hand. What's wrong with
No,
your right?
they're both. They've got both.
So I'm going to ask you some further questions. You're not obliged to answer them. Anything you do say is being recorded, maybe used as evidence. You understand that?
I do.
So what's wrong with your right hand? I mean, you've got the paperwork here that says all the items or examples of items that are not approved, which is this one-wheeled
Yeah, I know.
electric Segway type vehicle.
Yeah, but that does not include the exemptions. So that's aside from the exemptions.
Yeah,
The exemptions override anything else
I
you see in
understand how
that.
an exemption works.
Yeah.
Do not include motorised wheelchairs and scooters typically used by people with mobility disabilities.
Exactly.
This is not a scooter.
No, you're not reading that right. So it says electric scooters referred to here. So basically it's saying all the scooters referred to here, where it's saying you can't use them, do not include motorized wheelchairs and scooters typically used by people with mobility difficulties.
Yeah.
I actually read that in court already.
Yeah.
And if you interpret that properly, you understand that
But you would agree that this is not a wheelchair
it's not a wheelchair.
and it's not a scooter.
It's
So
a
the type
it's a
typically
self-balancing
used-
mobility device. That's what it is. It's a self-balancing mobility device in the context of what I'm using it, and that's why the exemption says that the scooters here don't include the ones used typically, right? And that's the word you got to be clear about is typically, because there's no clear-cut rule on what typically means, and I've already provided enough examples in court of other people using these types of devices for the same reasons that I'm using it. So that's something you really got to understand is the wording there.
I understand exemptions. So what is this? What brand is this one?
It's this is the part that's not clear though, because when I refer to the four-wheeled mobility scooters again, you're saying that they're covered under insurance somehow, but they haven't been specifically
They've got an
approved.
exemption. They've got an exemption as per here, a motorised wheelchair, because that's what they are.
Yeah, but
gopher?
so is this
Or a mobility
or
scooter.
exactly.
But this is not a scooter.
Yes, it is.
Within the definition of what a scooter is.
It
A scooter is a two-wheel.
No. There's all kinds of. There's four-wheeled. There's three-wheeled. right? And there's two-wheeled. So why couldn't there be one-wheeled? And the reason I need a one-wheeled is because it's hands-free. That's the specific reason.
Do an alco-test. Okay.
No, because it's actually being used in a medical capacity. So it's basically like, would you stop someone using a four-wheeled mobility scooter and tell them the same
They're
thing?
different. That's completely different.
No, it's
Because
not.
they're approved. They're an approved.
Show me the
vehicle.
list. Show me the list of
I don't
approved
have to
devices.
show you.
Because there is none.
I don't have to show you the list because
There is none. You can't.
so nice gentle blow till I say stop. Keep going, stop, excellent.
And the motor vehicle in question is indeed my Farkin walking aid. I can't believe this is already happening, guys. I just got out of bed, been sick for 3 months, bedridden, and this is my second ride. What a way to live, huh? What do I do? Stick around though, guys, because it gets interesting. So this is where the story begins, and don't worry, it gets interesting fast. So I just found this free wardrobe on Gumtree, or it's like Craigslist for you guys in the US. And I went to pick it up, use my van. I didn't use my EUC. And it just needed a couple of quick repairs, so got out a couple of tools. And I realized my gun was out of ammo. Or it's a staple gun. So I thought, alright, better head to the hardware store. And I thought, better use my EUC. Because you guys know how much fuel my van uses. Its MPG is... And the $1,800 question is, will I get a fine when I get stopped? Will I get stopped? Well, obviously I do. But if I get fined, the fine is $1,800. So stick around to the end to actually find out if I get a fine or not, and what actually happens with this stop. But it's lovely being able to take the EUC out, isn't it? One, because you save a lot in fuel, but two, because you don't have to start your car, because starting your car is actually the worst part of running any gasoline vehicle. The first 3 minutes of running your vehicle does the most damage by far. If you buy a car, you're much better off getting one that's had long trips, like country miles, highway miles. Doing short drives is the worst. So if you can just get your EUC out, even like 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, it's not really worth using your car. And I just love that. I can just have my van just sitting there for weeks at a time. Just start it once a month, which is ideal. It's going to last forever. And these wheels are so easy to maintain, they're going to last forever. So yeah, I've already got 20,000 kilometers on my OG Sherman. Got like 8,000 on my Max. That's 28,000. My 16X had like 8,000 when I sold it. So 36,000 all up. But yeah, we're just going to the hardware store. So I'll see you there. Just buying those staples. Can I have a look at the... Awesome, man.
Have a good one, man.
You too. Now we're on the way back to fix up that free wardrobe, but is it going to be free? Are we going to get an $1,800 penalty for using a walking aid? That's the $1 million question. It sucks that I even have to be asking this question, to be honest. It shouldn't even be a question. Don't cops have anything better to do? Got lots of actual crime out there. Don't they want to stop actual crime? Well, I guess not. Here we go, guys. This is it.
As the driver of a motor vehicle on the road, you need to do an alco-test. Okay? So, nice gentle blow to low safe stop. Keep going, stop very slow.
Nice. And guys, remember to stick around because you won't expect the outcome. It goes back and forth, and you never really know what's going to happen. But again, what's the question? Will I get an $1,800 fine out of this? And you will need to stick around till the end to find out. But I would suggest watching it because it's interesting how we actually get to the end.
So when's this stuff from? Have you got a court date pending, or
What are you
just-
asking about exactly?
Have you got a court date
There's a
pending
lot of
with
stuff in
this,
there.
or
Yeah, I'm currently arguing to the courts my case for actually using a hands-free walking aid, and this actual kind of device, which is a self-balancing device, is the only kind. It's the only type of device that's actually accessible in any capacity. It doesn't matter. I've called every doctor and every single mobility specialist in SA, and that's the only answer. So that's why I'm going to court. I've already gone to 2 pre-trial conferences. In March, I'm going to my final court date. The judges have seen all this, and it's pretty clear that they agree that this exemption also applies, because that's the exemption that you see.
But it's only in the Adelaide CBD at the moment as part of a trial program.
Yeah, but this one isn't limited to any particular area.
And they're also only trialling scooters, that is, with handles, with
Yeah, but
brakes.
that's completely different to this exemption. This is a medical exemption, and this is what I am actually using it under. There's
Okay.
no
Have you got a?
there
have
is
you got
no
have you got a current medical certificate advising of that exemption?
yeah, it's in here. There's no clear-cut rules on how fast it can go and stuff either. That's why
Well, if you
it's,
read,
it's
if
a
you
kind
read
of-
under the
it's a grey area.
Well, you read under the regulations, and it says they're not allowed to exceed 20 or 25 kilometres an hour, and you were doing 58. Like there were 3 other vehicles on the road ahead of you.
58, you reckon?
You had a blue van right
That's
next to you,
crazy,
and he was
I didn't-
keeping. You were flying along.
Didn't feel like I was going that fast. Well, this is something else I've suffered. I've actually developed Crohn's disease, which actually creates chronic lethargy, and that's actually adding to my case. But that's not why I'm using a walking aid. The reason I'm using a walking aid is due to a motorcycle and car accident I had in the past, which has impacted my ability to stay mobile. And it's messed up my wrist. That's why I've got these on as well.
Well, this says.
That's one of them, yeah.
But this is dated 26th of November 21,
Yeah.
and these need to be, if you're going to use a medical certificate, they have to be within a 12-month period of the
Well,
dated.
it's the actual incident happened like 5 years ago. It's basically a lifelong.
The obligation is on you to get an updated medical certificate every 12 months.
Well, this.
But this medical certificate you're referring to says
Yeah, to be that's from
suffering
2021.
left wrist pain and left ankle from a previous injury. Recommend that he limits weight bearing on his left ankle to reduce pain.
So what exacerbation?
So I'm going to take a scan of that.
So on top of this, which is the reason I've been using that, I've actually developed Crohn's disease, which is
The Crohn's is a gastro issue.
yeah, it's in the upper portion of my lower small intestine,
That
and it's
shouldn't
called
affect
giginoinitis.
with why you're using a.
Yeah, because one of the symptoms is chronic lethargy, and I can barely walk 100
That would
meters.
suggest there will probably be even more reason not to be using
That-
single-wheeled.
There's no effort involved in using that. It's you stand on it and it rolls.
You're rolling along, you fall asleep.
No, you don't. I don't have like problems staying awake. I've just got problems using energy. So if I need to walk under my own power, then I get tired very quickly. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with falling asleep. And this actually only happened in, I think it's September, and I've been suffering extreme. I don't know if you can tell, but I used to weigh like 80 kilos. Right now I weigh 50. Like that's how bad, I'm basically bedridden. I only can just get out and start doing my own shopping and stuff, you know. I've been basically in bed, not able to move. The judge has been very sympathetic both times. I've been to court twice now. And it's pretty clear that it would be virtually a human rights violation to prevent me from using a medical device, which is the only device with no other alternative available, right? If you stop me from using this, there's nothing else you can provide. You can't say, oh, go to the doctor and get something else.
Why aren't you using a two-wheeled scooter?
There is nothing else because of my wrist injuries.
Right. So what about a GoFo?
Same thing. I've got to manipulate the controls the entire way. Imagine how long the journey is, right? How long I'm going to be using my wrist for. I can barely...
But that's for your left hand. What's wrong with your right?
No, they're both. They've got both.
I'm going to ask you some further questions. You're not obliged to answer them. Anything you do say is being recorded, maybe use those evidence. You understand that?
I do.
So, what's wrong with your right hand?
What do you mean, what's wrong with that? Do you mean, how did it happen? How did it get injured? Or what are the symptoms?
Like, your medical paperwork says you've got a left wrist injury.
No, there's one in there for my right hand too. I had 2 accidents, right? I had a car accident where I was the passenger and we were hit at 70 k's an hour.
Okay, so this one refers to your IBS.
And then I had a motorcycle accident where I hit the back of a truck and I messed up both of my wrists. Okay.
Yeah. I mean this.
That's what's wrong with my right hand.
Letter from November 21 only refers to left.
This accident occurred about 5 years ago at least.
Yeah.
And I never recovered from it. I still have problems with my wrists.
I mean, and look, unfortunately, that's the problem with life. You get injured. No injury ever comes back 100%.
Yeah, but this was pretty bad. Like, I hit the back of a truck at 60 k's an hour basically, and my wrists took the brunt of it.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to even get any kind of mobility back on my wrists.
I mean, you've got the paperwork here that says all the items or examples of items that are not approved, which is this one-wheeled
I know.
Electric Segway type vehicle.
Yeah, but that does not include the exemptions. So that's aside from the exemptions.
Yeah,
the exemptions override anything else
I
you see in
understand
that.
how an exemption works.
Yeah.
Do not include motorised wheelchairs and scooters typically used by people with mobility disabilities.
Exactly.
So this is not a scooter.
No, you're not reading that right. So it says electric scooters referred to here. So basically it's saying all the scooters referred to here, where it's saying you can't use them, do not include motorised wheelchairs and scooters typically used by people with mobility difficulties.
Yeah.
I actually read that in court already.
Yeah.
And if you interpret that properly, you understand that...
But you would agree that this is not a wheelchair?
It's not a wheelchair.
And it's not a scooter.
It's a self-balancing mobility device. That's what it is. It's a self-balancing mobility device in the context of what I'm using it. And that's why the exemption says that the scooters here don't include the ones used typically, right? And that's the word you got to be clear about, is typically, because there's no clear-cut rule on what typically means, and I've already provided enough examples in court of other people using these types of devices for the same reasons that I'm using it. So that's something you really got to understand, is the wording there.
I understand exemptions.
No, I'm not saying you understand exemptions, but just the wording on this particular one.
So what is this? What brand is this one?
It's I'm not sure the brand, but changed the controller, and I basically like put my own batteries in it and stuff. I bought some batteries on eBay, and I'm a mechanical engineer. I graduated from mechanical engineering at Adelaide Uni and actually worked on this technology. It's
So is it an in-motion brand? Would that be the
yeah,
brand?
that's like most of the parts are in motion, but like the batteries aren't in motion, obviously, because they don't make batteries. But
So what size battery have you upgraded it to?
it's got a 1.8. 1.8 kilowatt hour or 1800 amp hour.
Well, put simply, until you have a written exemption issued by either Department of Transport or some other body that says you can use this.
Yeah, I know, I understand. That's why I'm going.
Yeah.
When I go to court, I'm going to have that.
Yeah, and
Ideally.
and it means that you can't keep driving it
Yeah,
in the meantime, because as your other paperwork indicates, and like I said, I followed you along with the other traffic doing 58 kilometres an hour along here on Muller Road. All right, these are speed limited, so you're well over the speed requirement, which means you're well over the battery power requirement.
Yeah, I reckon I must like I shouldn't ever go that fast, because basically the way it works, when you lean forward, which is how you accelerate, it needs to keep accelerating to keep balance, right? Because it's self-balancing.
Yeah, I know how they work.
So yeah, if you keep leaning, it'll keep trying to go faster, but you shouldn't. So I think I didn't hear, like, there's beeps here, and when it hits the limit where I shouldn't go any faster, it'll beep and I'll slow down, but I think I didn't hear it because of my blocked ear.
So it's unregistered, unregisterable motor vehicle because it can't be registered. So it's an offence to drive an unregistered motor vehicle on the road. Do you understand that?
No, because it's actually being used in a medical capacity. So it's basically like, would you stop someone using a four-wheel mobility scooter and tell them the same thing?
Different. That's completely different.
No, it's
because
not.
They're approved. They're an approved.
Show me the list. Show me the list of approved devices. Because there is none.
I don't have to show you the list because
there is none. You can't.
Okay.
Even if you wanted to.
So straight off, electric scooters are only approved by the Minister for use as part of the Adelaide CBD trial.
You're talking about the first exemption. I'm talking about the medical exemption.
Yeah, and I'm talking about everything to you. Okay, so the only electric scooters that are approved at the current time are the scooters that are used in the Adelaide CBD. So the purple beam ones, and I think the other ones are orange coloured. I can't remember their brand, but they're approved by the Minister.
Neuron. They're called Neuron.
As part of a trial. You understand that, though? I'm not.
What you're saying is that the scooters, Neuron and the beam scooters that you see on the street, they're exempt under the first exemption on that page where it actually outlines the law.
Yeah, they're exempt by
the second
by order
exemption
of the Minister.
Is the one I'm referring
And
to,
the
and it's got
second
nothing to do with.
exemption-
It's got nothing to do with the first one.
As you are.
Sorry if I'm speaking loud. It's because I'm deaf in one ear.
So
So.
the second exemption, a medical exemption, yes, of an approved type. That is an electric scooter or a mobility scooter. This is not a mobility scooter. This and at 58 kilometres an hour.
Can I show you again, just to?
Yeah, I've even taken scans of it.
Yeah, I know.
because
I know.
I'll
Just
submit
like while we're
scans
talking about it,
through
though,
as well.
'cause it's look. That's the first exemption, right? And that's what you're talking about with the scooters, the orange ones and
But,
the purple
until
ones.
you have a written exemption for this particular vehicle,
Yeah, but that's it right here. It's written
you
right
don't
here.
you don't have a current medical certificate covering your current injury. As I said, you need a medical certificate every 12 months. Okay, it has to be within 12 months of validity
Yeah.
for your
Okay.
injury. Okay. On top of that, that needs a written approval from the minister or other body approving its use on the road.
It
At
doesn't
the moment,
actually.
it is
Strictly, it
sold-
doesn't need it from the minister.
Yeah, it does.
The idea is, I'm going to go into court in
Yeah.
March, and I'm going to have paperwork, which is going to prevent any of this happening again, right?
I would hope so.
And in the
when you
meantime,
have- and when you have your exemption, you would have it in your folder, and you'd be able to pull
I've
it out
been
and say,
stopped by 100 cops, and I've shown them this, and there's been no
But
issues.
it depends on the officer. And, like, the
I've
law
had-
is very complex, and there are lots of different laws we deal with. And some cops go, too hard, I don't want to deal with it.
Well, I have had a couple of fines, and that's why I'm going to court. But
Because those officers go, well, it's not a compliant vehicle.
yeah, but it's already very clear from the 2 times I've been to court that the judge is very sympathetic with my case.
All right, but as I'm saying,
That's the
it
exemption
is
I'm.
an unregistered motor vehicle.
Yep.
It is an uninsured motor vehicle
But it's-
under compulsory third-party insurance.
I
That
understand
is,
what you're saying.
If you have a crash, either you crash yourself or someone else with you has a crash, so a car crashes into you or you crash into a car, you are not covered by any compulsory third-party injury component. The other party, if you injured someone, let's say a pedestrian stepped out in front of you and you bowled them down,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be covered for any compulsory third-party insurance. And to give you a bit of an idea, you go to the Royal Adelaide Hospital for trauma,
Yeah.
for the first hour, you're looking around $100,000. All right?
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand that.
$100,000 to give to someone for their hospital bill.
This is the part that's not clear though, because when I refer to the four-wheeled mobility scooters again, you're saying that they're covered under insurance somehow, but they haven't been specifically
They've got an
approved.
exemption. They've got an exemption, as per here, a motorised wheelchair, because that's what they are,
Yeah, but
GoPro?
so is this
or a mobility
or
scooter.
Exactly. Motors
But
will.
this is not a scooter.
Yes, it is.
Within the definition of what a scooter is.
It
A scooter
is.
is a two-wheel.
No. There's all kinds of. There's four-wheeled. There's three-wheeled, right? And there's two-wheeled. So why couldn't there be one-wheeled? And the reason I need a one-wheeled is because it's hands-free. That's the specific reason. Is because I've got wrist
I would be
injuries.
suggesting that with your pre-existing injuries, racing along the roads at 58, 60 kilometres
Yeah, I
an hour
agree. I
is-
shouldn't be going fast. Yeah,
is putting you at greater risk of further injury.
I definitely agree there. Yeah.
And as you saw that motorist pulled up and shouted out, that guy's dangerous.
I
The way
didn't
he
like. I honestly couldn't hear him because I had this
I
earpiece.
saw you down at Hampstead Road intersection flying along. I'm like, holy smokes, look at this guy. And then
Right.
all the cars, and you weren't even in the bike lane, you were actually just outside the white line, so the car that was behind you couldn't overtake you safely within the lane because
Right.
you were zipping along at the full speed, and so you were holding up the traffic because you weren't in the bike lane, but you're not a bike, so you shouldn't be in the bike lane, but you're not a motor vehicle, so you shouldn't be on the road. You're
Yeah.
seeing the compounding effect. Let's say one of those people who got frustrated and said, I'm just going to race past this bloke, and they clip you, 60 k's an hour, that car's going to be fine, you're going to be laying in a bloody
Yeah,
mess on the road.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Until you have an exemption issued by Department of Transport and Infrastructure or by the court, you can't be riding that on the road.
What if I just ride slow on the footpath at like 15 k's an hour? Like
It's
a
still not
scooter?
approved.
But come on, you know.
You know segways.
I
You know
need
what a
a-
Segway is.
Yeah.
Yep. They are not an approved vehicle, so they can only be approved under certain situations. I think there's a place up in the Flinders Ranges, and I think occasionally down around the Torrens they get an approval for a tour group, but they're the
Yeah.
only places. Even in Canberra, there's only one Segway company approved to drive the Segways, and that's only around Lake Burley Griffin.
Yeah.
All right, so they're not approved to just.
But that's like recreational though, because I'm talking about using it as a mobility device.
I understand what you're applying it for, but that doesn't automatically give you the exemption to use it until such time as that it's approved for use.
Well,
and
I literally live like
I know where
a kilometre away.
you
If
only
I
live
can
up the
use
road.
this, it'll be, if I have to walk, it's gonna put a lot of strain on my ankles.
Well, what I'm going to say is, after you get home, don't be taking it out again.
All right.
Use a bus, use a car, use a bicycle, whatever. But
Are you serious? You wouldn't be okay with me just going like walking speed on the foot? It's just like a walking aid, basically.
I'm going to be going that way. Okay.
All right.
You reading between the lines there?
Yeah, I do.
I'm going that
I
way.
respect what you're
you
saying.
hear what I'm
though.
saying?
Yeah.
All right. But I don't want you to be doing 50, 60 k's an hour up the road,
Yeah.
on the road, definitely. All right.
Yeah.
But as it stands at the moment, like I said, unregisterable vehicle, uninsured, uninsurable vehicle, and a vehicle not approved for use by the minister at the current time. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got the court date in March. I will refer this on, hopefully onto that date as well for a further examination, and hopefully maybe you'll get an approval, maybe you're not, but until you get an approval, you can't be using it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you, Mario?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I don't want to jump up and down, but I understand that sometimes the law may be an arse. Sometimes you may not agree with the law, and yes, government goes, okay, we're going to change this law, but until they change the law, you can't. It's like cannabis. I mean, people want to smoke cannabis. Currently, they're doing trials to legalise cannabis to use it for medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
But until that is approved, it doesn't mean that everyone can buy cannabis and, hey, I'm using it for medicinal purposes.
It's not really the same because this is a very grey area because of the way this is worded.
But also you need a current medical certificate identifying your medical issues and the specific use. Then you're getting closer to less grey.
The second one is within 3 months.
But the second one doesn't identify, that's saying you've got irritable bowel, not ankle and wrist injuries.
Chronic lethargy is one of the symptoms, which is...
But then that concerns me as to someone who's lethargic, who's driving a motor vehicle, be it a car, a truck, a bus, a motorbike. If you're sort of tired...
It's not like, I don't look like I want to fall asleep for it. It's
a
muscle thing. It's more of a muscle thing.
But then
in my case at least.
Then that also makes it concerning because Vixen 60 also
I know, I do, I understand. I respect what you're saying though. Like if I'm going fast, it's definitely a concern.
Yeah.
But what I'm just saying is like it's a muscle thing. If I have to use my muscles a lot, that's when I get really tired.
Yep.
So if I've got something that can motor me along, then I'm fine.
I mean, my concern is you're saying if I'm using my muscles, but this thing is using muscles at all times because you're balancing.
Yeah, but it's very very minimal.
You've got ankle usage.
It's let me put it this way: it's easier than walking. Like
I appreciate that.
Going a kilometre in this is easier than walking 100 metres.
Yeah.
So like,
I appreciate what you're saying, but I also have concern that if you're saying you've got an ankle injury, and this primarily is steered by the use of your ankles leaning forward.
It's not really. It's more your knees. Like it's your body weight basically, but your knees are like the fulcrum point.
Yeah.
Mostly.
I mean, but then it gets into it needs comprehensive testing, it needs approvals, and definitely is not approved for driving on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, I've got an inquiry down here. I understand you've got to waste a kilometre or so up the road. Stay on the footpath until you get home.
Yeah.
Don't use it again until you get a written approval and present along with your current medical certificate for the relevant injuries.
Okay.
All right? Okay. Thanks for your cooperation.
No worries. Yeah.
Be safe.
Okay. Thanks.
All right.
See ya. Oh man, can't believe this, guys. I just got away with it, I reckon. I hope I don't get a fine. He didn't say anything about a fine, so man, I didn't know what I was gonna say. Like, normally I can argue the medical thing, but he caught me going heaps fast, so when I realized, I was like, dude, should I even pull out the medical stuff? Like, it's a bit of just seemed like a bit of a joke, kind of, but I don't even know how fast I was going, And to be honest, it doesn't matter if you're going fast. It's the same amount of effort involved. So, be honest, if you go faster, there's less effort because you get there sooner, so you're not standing on it for as long. I know it's a bit more strenuous, but you get there sooner, so maybe it evens out. But yeah, man, that was close.